Hello and welcome. We are Bleeding Tree Gaming. My name's Amy, aka Warpfiend, and I'm joined by.
Hi, I'm Luke, aka SirMime.
And today we are going to talk about the latest updates on Age of Sigmar 4.0. So first of all, you can see it right here. We've got it right in front of us. The new clan rats.
Our first look at the clan rats.
They are absolutely gorgeous. They are lovely. I can't wait to see more of this army.
Yeah.
But yeah, these as basic troops, I think these are really good. Like because obviously you have lots of Skaven. These don't look like they're going to be too much trouble to paint.
I'm looking at it as like it's detailed, but it's not too much detail to like paint.
Yeah, they look like they'll take really well to like contrast paints if you just want to get them done really quickly. But also, I think you could do some fantastic, like, high detail paint jobs on these guys.
Yeah.
And there's some little touches, like you've got the very kind of like pestilence looking one, the kind of like Eshin almost look on some of them. Yeah, there's just bits and pieces of Skaven. I love
eye patch one.
Yeah, the little bits of armor and stuff. I really love this banner.
They did the hangout and paint thing the other day, and one of the clan rat models they were painting in that, he just had like a little hook as his weapon.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, hopefully there'll be lots of options for weapons and stuff just for customization, because it seems very much like they're trying to keep to simplifying the rules, but giving you a little bit of kind of build options to just make sure your armies don't look all the same. And you can see, like,
look at the size of them compared to that stunk.
It's still very, very much Skaven sized. Yeah, they haven't scaled up. You haven't got Primaris Skaven running around.
It'd be interesting to see how big the new ogres and things are going to be. Like,
yes, definitely. Be nice if they got like just like maybe 10% bigger. They don't need to be huge, but yeah. So moving on from that, we also had Stormcast, and these are the Reclusians.
The one that's featured primarily in the introduction trailer.
Yes,
as well.
Yes, that's where we first saw this design of armor, and it does hark back to the ones from the first box set that had the lightning coming out of them that I always forget the name of. Well, I forget the name of all of them, as you'll know if you watch us regularly. But yeah, it kind of like mirrors the elites from the first box without being directly the same thing. And they've got their own backstory about just basically being very close to just like losing themselves completely. And so they have to have these human companions, these priests that go around with them to kind of tether them to humanity so they don't lose themselves completely.
Again, just an absolutely brilliant excuse to have a cool-looking familiar next to them.
Yes. And I was thinking, like, Games Workshop really, like, one of the things they do best is just, like zealot, like, cultists and monks and stuff like that. And this is like, yeah, you have your Chaos cult, you have your Gene Stealer cult, you have, like, Cities of Sigmar, have kind of stuff like that. Yeah. And I always love a model like that, basically. And these I'm probably going to get a couple to stick in my Chaos cult, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. They'll fit right in any kind of, like, chaosy cult type thing.
Yeah, I can't even see too much in the way of, like, there's some little tiny lightning things on there, but there's not too much you'd have to cut off to put them in any kind of army.
It's warp lightning as well.
Yes.
But the thing that interests me on this reveal page is, are they going to be a unit of 3? Or I mean, has that one got like a different pose on its legs? Like 2 of them look very similar, just with like a weapon change.
Yeah, that one's kind of just leaping forward, or just in the process of. That one's kind of like leaning to one side, but
I could be completely wrong. Looking at it now, like the legs do actually seem quite different positions, and
I'm interested, would it be like a unit of 3 of the Reclusians and 2 of the whatever the priests are called?
I'm gonna be interested to see what
Interesting.
their rules are.
Yep, yep. I found it very strange, like when it was discussing them here. Um, they may have forgotten their old friends and blood relations, their place of origin, or even their own battle scarred histories. Some may have strange supernatural phenomena manifesting around them,
Ooh.
speak with voices of thunder, or have lost their ability to dream of a better life.
Ooh.
That last sentence just doesn't seem to fit in those. It's like, what did Stormcast have? Like a, is this some kind of magical ability they've lost?
Do
You have the
Stormcast dream of electric sheep?
yeah, you have the supernatural phenomena, you have the speaking with the voices of thunder, and losing the ability to dream of a better life. Yeah.
Everything's just more mundane in their dreams now.
Yes, yeah. They
They're just
dream
not
and it's just
identified
like
as being
the
the
same
serious.
or slightly worse, but not better. Yeah, anyway, moving on from our talk about the models, let's get into some of the rules because we've had some interesting stuff come out recently. Um, First of all, we had this article last week, which was about the new commands. Um, and so the way they've simplified this is you get 4 command points, 5 if you're the underdog.
Yep, yeah, losing on victory points, yeah.
Yep. And there are 10 commands. And as far as we know, there aren't any specific army ones that are coming. You just have the 10 commands that are in the command module of the core rules.
I'd say that could all change, can't it, with the modular system and yeah, it's interesting. The specific, I think they've made mention already that there's not really any means of farming any more command points. They specifically said there's not
Yes.
going to be any heroic actions in 4th edition. The only thing I was wondering, I mean, if something does still have the ability to issue commands multiple times, that's going to be absolutely huge, but I doubt it's going to survive into the new edition.
Yeah, because you now don't need a hero or a champion to issue the commands, so it's not clear if those abilities are going to make it over to this. It'd be interesting, but it might go against kind of the way they're trying to build the game now. So,
I
yeah.
mean, there's some interesting sounding ones, but from the sound of it, you've got to be very, very tight with when you're going to use them in this edition.
Yes, yes. So you're only going to get a chance to use half of them, and I think it's you can only use command once per phase, or is it once per unit per phase?
I think it is still like same as before, where it's only like you can use the one command once per phase.
Yes, yes.
Again, maybe some armies got a rule that lets them use it, or some models got a rule where they can use the same command more than once. It might do a bit of a 10th edition 40k where someone's got something on their war scroll that says they can use the command for free. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's things like the Bone Reapers having their army rules changed. What was
Yeah,
that
because
one?
they generate quite a lot of CP currently because they have a lot of unique commands available to them. So this article does specifically mention that the way their army works is definitely going to change for the new edition, but then just teases the fact that they're going to do little faction focuses some point in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when they've kind of been built around a master of strategy or
Yeah,
whatever as their army type, and they've previously relied on gaining command points. Obviously, we're going to have to see how that translates into the new rules, whether they manage to still get that across. But yeah, could be a number of ways to solve that problem.
they might have a few more things baked into their war scrolls now, just to not rely on
Yeah,
commands
yeah.
as much.
Yeah, it'd be good if they can do that while still kind of keeping the flavour of them, because I do know a lot of people enjoy the playstyle of Bone Reapers. Yeah, so we have the kind of flow of them now. So it's like the 3 steps: declare the ability, use reactions, and resolve the effect. So obviously this, I believe this kind of also counts towards stuff like moves and charges.
Yeah, yeah.
So like if an opponent declared a charge, for example, then you would use reactions to it.
It's kind of like just taken in a bubble at the minute, isn't it? It's they mention the effects there, but there's not particularly an example of like how the flow of it goes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I have heard people talk about that, but I have to admit,
I
there's a
assume it
lot
is
I'm
like,
still unclear on.
because like later on it mentions about one of the abilities happening in your opponent's shooting phase. So I'm assuming it's like I don't know, the opponent's like declared something in their shooting phase, but then you react with your stratagem shooting at them, and then you resolve the effects of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the basic flow of it anyway. The first couple we see here is obviously all out attack and all out defense,
Yeah.
which are fairly much the same thing.
Pretty much your bread and butter in Age of Sigmar at the minute.
Yeah, so these would be obviously only used in the actual combat phase now. Whereas, did
it
you?
does say an attack, so I think missile attacks will still count for like the shooting phase.
So yes, you can use them for the shooting phase too.
Although now I think if it's saying you declared an attack ability, you might be able to use them because like before, if someone was like shooting at you in the hero phase, you wouldn't be able to all out defend. So the way it's worded now, it just says you're targeted by an attack. So you potentially can put all out defense on yourself if it doesn't happen in sequence.
Right. Yeah.
We got at the double and forward to victory again. At the double, just good guarantee of movement across the board. You don't have to make a run roll. Forward to victory, just a re-roll of a charge. Just pretty much exactly the same as they are now.
Yep. And I think they have kind of just ported over like the most successful of the commands that we've had previously, which makes sense really if they're simplifying it. The ones that everyone knows that definitely work in all situations. Yeah, it seems to be common sense to just like bring them over like that.
I'll say everyone's got to re-roll their charge roll at some point. Something important.
Yep.
Now we're going into the new commands now. Well, new / altered commands. And we've got
so obviously
rallies.
rally is the big one because this replaces basically the rallying mechanic that was in AOS up till now.
Yeah, because like currently you roll a number of dice equal to the amount of models that have been slain in your unit, and usually any 6s, but some armies have like special rules where it can even be on a 4+. You can bring back a number of models equal to, well, it's 10 wounds maximum. You can bring models back up to for each 6 you roll.
Yeah.
Whereas now it looks like any unit that's not in combat can actually do it. So even a hero or a monster could actually potentially heal themselves up. And you just roll 6d6. For each 4+, you receive 1 rally point. And then for each rally point you have, you can either heal 1 health back to that unit or model, or you can spend a number of rally points equal to the health characteristic of a unit to return the slain model.
Yeah, And it seems to make a lot of sense doing it that way. I will say that it's a bit of an improvement just because of like the unbalanced nature of like, you know, you roll 1/6 and get back like one single grot or something compared to rolling the same 6 and getting back like, I don't know, some big mounted thing like one of my pigs.
Oh, yes.
Because I have got those back a fair few times in just what seemed like unreasonable amounts, which...
Oh, honestly, I played one of the first games of Sigmar I had was like against someone playing Stormcast, and what are they called now? It was like the Griff Charger type models.
Yes, yeah.
The guy constantly kept on rolling 6s on rallies,
Oh,
and like every time I took one down, he'd just bring one back. It was
Yeah. I mean, if a model has like 4 wounds, you're very unlikely to be bringing one back at all.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, it's on 4+ to actually get the rally points.
Yeah.
So, like, it's gonna be probably.
I mean, you're
about
gonna make
half
3
the time
on average.
So. Yeah. It's it's a bit rarer to happen.
It's nice that, as I was saying, like it could crucially heal up a hero at the point that you need them to have a little bit more health back. And
yeah. I'm interested that it's in particular it's 6 roles they picked, rather than like being affected by number of models or anything like that. I guess it just makes it easier to remember across the board.
I think
one number.
I think, like you were saying, just though, I think it's to stop someone from bringing back like a Varangar.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on. There's also redeploy there, and so that's
redeploy. Essentially the same, but now you have to wait until the end of the opponent's movement to actually use it.
Whereas before it would be like immediately after they moved, you would get to use that. Seems fairly much the same. You just like wait a bit longer, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of like guessing before, wasn't it? Like when someone was going to redeploy, whereas now you can set up a little bit more, knowing where you're going to end up.
Yeah. I mean, like, there was some interesting interactions where, opponent would do like a move and then you'd redeploy and then they'd move their other troops and that would kind of add to the kind of back and forth of the battle. But I think having it done at the end does kind of make sense. Yeah.
I mean, now, like, it's going to essentially make sure that no one's going to have a 3-inch charge, really, against a unit that you definitely don't want in combat.
Yes. That's going to be handy in that circumstance, definitely. So there's also covering fire now, which is...
Yeah, this is in place of Unleash Hell. It takes place in the enemy shooting phase now, apparently.
Yeah, so... I mean, previously... What phase was this used in before?
This was once the opponent had completed a charge move into you. And then I think it's like models within 6 inches, really, that of a unit that has been charged can then make shooting attack against you. Whereas now it just seems that if the enemy unit's in range of you in the enemy's shooting phase, you can just shoot at them.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice of moving it. I guess they're trying to keep the kind of back and forth thing going as much as possible so that like you don't have ages to wait while your opponent's doing all their like shooting stuff over and over before you actually get to have a go at doing something in the charge or the combat phase.
I think as well it possibly might have something to do against like a Caradon Overlord's army or something, because if you're a melee only army, and you're charging into a big boat full of Caradon overlords, normally you'd just be guaranteed to just be shot trying to get into combat with them.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if you can get up close enough to charge them, you should be getting in fine, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's plenty of circumstances it could be useful to kind of avoid that kind of immediate Overwatch thing when you're charging. Yeah, and
Although
then obviously.
It does mean that the dwarfs do get to shoot you in your shooting phase now.
Yes. Obviously, there's a counter charge, which is a powerful one that's worth 2 command points.
There's a couple of armies that have a rule to this currently. Like the Glotkin has this, and the Bone Reapers have an ability where they can essentially charge in the opponent's charge phase. It's just a really powerful tool just to make sure the enemy can't go where they want to go.
Yeah, I can see, like, you're not going to be using this a great deal of the time, especially with it being expensive and command points being limited. But if you're in the right position to pull this off, it could be absolutely devastating.
Oh yeah. I mean, even just stopping someone getting near to an objective for claiming an objective, it's just a really powerful tool.
Oh yeah. Magical intervention next.
I really like the sound of this one because especially if like you're going second at the start of the battle and you could potentially be hit from across the battlefield. It's really nice just to have that thing where you can cast one of your buffing spells in the enemy hero phase.
Yes. Now, like buffing spells, you can also, I don't know when you get the opportunity to, but like just an offensive one, if catch the opponent off guard.
Oh, so like if your wizard's like, if your wizard or priest is about to be charged and you know they're going to die in your opponent's turn, then at least they can just fire one little thing off at the enemy before they go and hope for the best.
Yeah, and like the covering fire had the -1 from hit rolls, you have got the -1 from your casting rolls. So it's going to be slightly more difficult to do, but like particularly if you've got like a slan or something, I'm sure you're not going to be struggling too much to get off a spell at -1. Yeah. So another one that just seems really handy, like really keeping the back and forth thing going, like I said.
And then this last one now, we were saying the other day, like this is. It'd be interesting if the big pigs actually have something that the chariot has to link into this command.
Yes. So basically, if you charge this turn, and I believe, sorry, I can't see here, but it says how does it? It's the monster charges, but it's.
Oh, it doesn't have to be a monster. Just as long as it has more health characteristic than the unit that it's in combat with.
Yes, that was how it worked out. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking for something that said that, like just scanning it quickly. Sorry, there's a lot of rules to go through. I didn't remember every single bit. Yeah, it's got to have a higher health characteristic than the target unit, basically. So basically you just inflict mortal damage and then you can move again, basically.
Your full movement as well, that is really big.
Something like the pigs or the chariots or just anything that's kind of big and bulky is going to have a whale of a time just charging through things.
Which like the pigs at the minute, like you got the momentum score, but like the second they're in combat, like they're just losing that momentum all the time. Exactly. This thing letting them just get out of combat and then potentially charge again as well.
Yeah, you don't really want to like draw the pig out of combat because then you basically waste a turn where he's not fighting. But you don't get that momentum because then he's not moving and he's not fighting.
But as
So
well,
this is
this
perfect.
can be combined with the counter charge ability because it just says as
Yeah.
long as they've charged that turn, which
Yep. So you can then turn around and charge.
is very expensive. If you've ever got that free CP to do it, it might be worth doing at one point.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a glorious combo.
And then
So you can.
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, the only other thing that you had on this article page, which then I didn't notice the first time around, which I've heard that this War Scrolls got added in afterwards. So at first I read
Yes.
the little blurb about it, and I was like, oh, they're talking about the Stormstrike chariot and stuff. And then I came back to it a couple of days later, and this War Scroll had been added onto it.
Yes, that was right. Yeah, it wasn't there at first. This was a bit interesting as well.
Yeah, we got some new kind of abilities to look at, which again, very kind of like you're familiar with it if you've played any 10th edition 40k at the minute. You've got like a couple of abilities that sound on level with that. You've got this anti-infantry one here for the bow that says, obviously, if you're targeting an infantry, I'm guessing you get up to -2 rend on the bow going into an infantry.
Yeah.
But then also as well, if it looks like you get any hit rolls with 6, it scores 2 hits instead of 1 from this crit 2 hits thing. Be interesting to see whether that plays in with the anti-infantry the same way that 10th edition 40k has.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to see quite how that works. Whether it's just like a rule by itself that just like.
Although I think the anti-infantry, like in 10th, does actually have to have like a number for you to wound for it to like count as critical and stuff. So it probably is just taken in a vacuum, really. Like crit 2 hits is just like your standard roll a 6 to hit and it's worth 2 or something. We got a companion weapon in the razor beaks. So again,
Yeah.
it might have something to do with like how. Well, then again, all out attack doesn't say anything specifically about the actual unit's weapons and companion weapons or anything. So I don't think it's going to particularly change anything on that. Be interesting to see what companion really means, but charge +1 damage. So the second the storm strike is actually charging that turn, it's getting 2 damage on its attacks instead of 1.
Yep.
And
That's
then
interesting the way those work. Yeah.
it's got a bit of a charge damage on going in on a 2+, it inflicts D3. Oh no, it's roll a D3 and on the 2+ you do mortal wounds equal to the roll.
Yeah.
So essentially you're only ever doing 2 or 3 mortal wounds to someone.
Yeah, so it's like a little. It's like the pigs thing, basically.
Yeah.
The same thing the pigs get on the charge currently, where if they go in, that they do a certain amount of damage onto the unit.
It is quite nice because I think the chariots at the moment have the ogre type charge rule where it's like roll equal to your unmodified charge roll, and then every might be like a 5+ or something, it's a mortal wound. So it'd be nice to see if this is like limiting people just doing tons of mortal wounds on the charge into you in this edition there.
Yeah.
Which, I'm playing against ogres, I'm always like shocked at how much damage ogres do going into you.
Oh god, yeah. So
And
the
then,
part that I really think is the star of this, well, this caught my eye the most.
yeah, that passive ability looks really good. It's specifically to go with the power through command.
Yeah. So you'll be using that command, and you can inflict an additional D3 mortal damage and add D6 to your movement. So
has it got 10-inch movement to start off with on there?
Yeah, 10-inch movement. So you're basically doing a run move for free.
It's crazy. Like, just attack some. You're getting your plus damage and everything. It's a free up save. I don't know what the rest of the Ren's going to look like in this edition. Although looking at this thing, it's got a Ren 2 spear that it can have an option for still.
Yeah.
But I think the axe is probably going to be where more people will go.
Yeah, the extra attack's not to be sneezed at, really, and the +1 damage on the charge.
But yeah, like you can do a bit of damage. You can do probably 2 or 3 mortal wounds going in, a good bit of chip damage going into actual combat. Then you can use your power through thing, do 2d 3 mortal wounds, and then escape up to 16 inches away from whoever you're attacking. Absolutely crazy.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the first of the rules articles we've had so far. Let's move on to the second one now, and battle traits and battle formations. So, basically, battle traits are a collection of rules that the army will have, like kind of the army-wide rules. And the Stormcasts have 4. So we can kind of take it to mean that's going to be about the average.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether other armies get less, or it'd be nice if everyone's kind of equal on it.
Yeah, it does seem to be a good number. I wouldn't go many more than that, and you start to overcomplicate them. Too few than that, you kind of drain the colour out of the army. And I think no one wants to have the army that's just got like 2 abilities when everyone else has got 4.
I absolutely love this first one though. I mean, taking a heroic action and then making it just, you can pick one unit, any one of your units once per game, and they get their finest hour rule for +1 to wound and +1.
That is, yeah, it seems great that like it's particularly like a Stormcast one now. I don't know if other armies will then also get their finest hour, or if it'll just be solely for the Stormcast. Could make sense to have it in common. Could make sense to do different things with other people, you know. Lots of other things. So other than that, you also have Celestial Realm, Signs of the Storm, and Heaven Sent.
So yeah, they kind of go hand in hand with each other, the Celestial Realm and Signs of the Storm. It's something you can do with Stormcast at the moment, just deploy them up in the air instead of on the table, and then Signs of the Storm, just deep strike in 9 inches away from all enemy units.
So I was a bit confused about this, because not entirely sure of the rules. Do standard deep striking ones just come off at the table edge then? Can they not set up anywhere more than 9 inches anyway? What's the actual benefit of this rather than a normal deep strike?
Well, in Sigmar, like the actual deep strike rule, there isn't. I know with Flesh Eater Courts at the minute, there's like when you're bringing on a replacement unit, they have to come on within 6 inches of a board edge.
Yes.
But deep striking in Sigmar is like pretty much, you can just come in like 9 inches away from someone if you've got like a deep strike rule on your model, and you can also do it turn 1. Again, it'd be interesting if that actually changes in this edition.
Because this is like 2 separate abilities of the Stormcast to do the same thing, but once, basically. It's not once per turn, is it? As far as I'm aware, this is once per battle. Yeah, so
yeah, you got the deployment one, so essentially you can actually, yeah, the way it's worded, it does make it sound like you can only really pick like 1 unit to go up in the air.
And so maybe the thing is, like, they want deep strike to be like a one-off thing in the battle and not something that people are abusing all the time. That could be the goal of this, but
it's just kind of like currently with Stormcast, you can have like, I think it probably is like half your army you can have up in Celestial Realm, And basically,
Yes,
I've seen it
yes.
where just people have like annihilators on annihilators just up in the air, and then there's like a thing where they can come in within 7 of the enemy as opposed to within 9. I think it's just basically to stop Stormcast just being up in the air, coming down, pinning the enemy in their deployment zone turn 1, and
Yeah,
it's
that would
not being a
make
fun game for the
sense.
other person.
That would make sense while still allowing it as like a one-off thing, which
Yeah.
seems a much more fair way of doing things. So I'd be interested to see how other factions handle like the obviously deep striking is not as common as 40k anyway, but yeah, certainly it would be interesting to see what they do with the rest of it. And
Heaven
then of course
Sent,
there's Heaven Sent,
which they
which is
do
just
have an ability fairly similar to this at the minute. Once per game, you can pick an infantry unit, but I do believe at the moment you do actually get the full unit back.
yeah, and now it's only half the unit, which I've seen some big units of Stormcast. Obviously, they don't have huge unit sizes, but obviously people have been using like the maximum size for the units and
I think we had it at
reinforcing
one
them
point in the
fully.
tournament, didn't we? Someone had like a block of like 10 Vindicators and I
Yes,
think did
that's what
this
I
to
was
us. And
thinking of.
like,
But the second we got through them, they just came right back.
it was really hard chewing for him twice. It was like,
Yes,
literally
yes.
chewing. I was using my Jaw attacks on my Seraphim.
So yeah, I mean, it seems fairly much like I don't want to diss the rules here, but it seems kind of like a lot of the Stormcast ones are just kind of constraining things that were problems with making them too powerful before.
Which again, like Stormcast weren't exactly like, you know, they have got some
Uh,
powerful tools and people can make really good armies with Stormcast, but like, yeah, they definitely were kind of like one of those start of the edition armies that
yeah,
kind of
I mean,
felt.
compared to that war scroll that we just looked at, that seems like a powerful war scroll in itself.
Mm.
And they seem to have limited the kind of like cheesy strategies for Stormcast, really. Like we've just gone through them all, obviously, like putting too much stuff in deep strike and stuff, and just like reinforcing huge units or whatever. So that seems positive, but also like it kind of sucks. They've got 4 things that are kind of like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. Or
It's
you
kind of
can
like, oh,
only
you've
do
got
this.
4 things, but 2 of them are essentially one thing. Like
Yes,
you're
yes.
in reserve and your deep strike. It's like it's not 2 different rules, really, is it?
No, I guess they just wanted it to be like in a sentence, and they couldn't get it in a sentence, so
I think it's
too.
again because of the modular, like what phase it fits into. They've had to do one for deployment and one for movement phase.
So those are the battle traits. The battle formations are what is replacing, obviously,
Sub-factions.
sub-factions. So you can now use any paint scheme of sub-faction with any set of rules. And these now, like for the Stormcast, they give us the Thunderhead host and the Lightning echelon.
I didn't realize paint scheme was a limiter before.
Well, it never was in the same that it was for 40k, but there was always this kind of thing. Oh, you take the rules to this faction. This is the color scheme of this faction. You don't always have to paint it that color scheme, but yeah, I think this has just kind of made it official that you don't have to match up your color scheme with some army plan.
The interesting thing about this Thunderhead host is, I don't know, it's like it's a sub-faction within Stormcast, but then within it, you've got to have sub-factions of Stormcast within it. I mean, we saw the Chariot had the keyword of Warrior Chamber in there, but then to make the most of the effect, you've also got to have other non-Warrior Chamber models in there.
Yeah, I personally, I don't immediately see how that's particularly great. You've got to be in the auras of the two different ones, as well as them both being in your army, and it just seems a lot of like modifiers to get a buff.
You just get a +1 to hit as well. It's
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like a lot of management for very little payoff.
It just feels disappointing, to be honest.
Plus, like, I want to get the new starter box. Like, I'm probably gonna have all Warrior Chamber stuff in there. Like,
yeah.
How do you play that if nothing has another chamber keyword in there?
yeah. It's a puzzling choice. Like, I don't know if there'll be any more rules or if it is literally just that rule for.
I say it'd be interesting to see what the other ones are, but again, it's like the sub-factions for Stormcast don't really have great rules at the moment, and it's just, I don't know, looking at that, like, it's not going to set the world on fire, really.
No. Whereas this Lightning Echelon one, I think this actually sounds quite good.
This seems like a really useful one, because like if you want to play like your Stormdrake Guard or your Dracothian Guard, which again, quite powerful units in the current edition, be interesting to see what they're like in 4th.
Yeah. So it's just like you pick a friendly extremist chamber units that charge this turn, roll a dice. On a 3+, you get the strike first for the rest of the turn. That's a great army ability. You can use that, obviously.
Again, can combo up with the counter charge ability as well, so you're getting strike first in the enemy's charge phase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which strike first is brilliant. Just especially with how combat works currently in Sigmar, knowing that you're going to get 2 different activations, one after the other, is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, like the rules we've seen so far, the commands pretty positive. The Stormcast, I'd say, hit and miss so far.
Yeah,
good and bad.
It is a shame because I'm really hyped to actually start a Stormcast army as well.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, again, we're just seeing Stormcast things with no indication of what other armies ones are going to be like.
Yeah, we don't know all of the context behind this. But yeah, as you can, I'm not going to be starting a Thunderhead host anytime soon unless they can provide me with some more justification for why that would actually be worth my time.
I just hope there is like a proper Warrior Chamber one. Just so I don't have to worry about being next to other things or something like that.
Absolutely. Well, those are the kind of rules that we've seen so far. We're hoping to see more later in the week, kind of leading up to the release, and we'll keep doing videos on those when they're with us.
And I'd say if there's anything you think we've missed or any like interesting combinations or anything you can think of, maybe drop us a comment or something, and we'd love to have a discussion of rules.
If you're desperate to race out and start a Thunderhead host based on what you've read there, please tell me why, because personally, I don't have a clue why you would.
I mean, I'm going to say, like, I'm most likely going to play Krondys and Karazai. Being Holy Within 12 or one of them is quite easy. And if their War Scrolls are quite good, then I can probably do that one all right. But +1 to hit's not exactly a great payoff for that.
No. Well, we've been Bleedy Tree Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.